Walker. We actually have a couple of guests. We have a couple of Boy Scouts working on a merit badge in communications back there. And they're going to come up to the mic and lead us in the pledge to the flag. It's Justin Hill and Ryan Weir.
Welcome.
So welcome up. And start us off, guys.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Here.
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 Here. Here.
Correspondence. Do I hear a motion to receive and file?
So moved. Second.
Motion Nedrow, second Kiznecki. Discussion?
Yes, I would like to make a comment that the letter that was sent from the village pertaining to the revenue sharing, I don't know who put that together, but kudos. That was a very well-done letter, to the point, very professional.
Yeah, that was our resolution that we passed, so
So whoever was responsible for that, you got my
that was
my
our
gratitude.
Our treasurer, Mike Kondek, who is not here with us today because he's on vacation, but yeah, he did a great job on that in terms of really outlining the problem. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Additions to business.
I have no additions.
Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Nagy, second Kaznecki.
Mr. President, I would like to remove something from the consent agenda.
Let's do that when we get to the
Okay.
break.
All right.
But, yeah, we can do that. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, first call to the public. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items. We do not have our portable mic today, so if you have something to say, we're going to have to ask you to come up and come to the microphone. Seeing none, I will close the first call to the public. You might notice that an old friend has appeared on our agenda, candidates for office. We're hitting the time of the year where candidates do sometimes like to come down and say hello, so that'll be on our standing agenda from now until the election. Anybody who's going to appear on the ballot that citizens of Wolverine Lake will have, invite them to come on down and say hello. So we'll see who we get. We've often gotten some interesting folks down. Approval of the consent agenda. Ed, you want to go ahead and make a motion, and you can ask for the thing to be removed in it?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, and I would like item E removed. And also, I want to discuss the June 25th special meeting. The minutes.
Oh, okay, minutes. Okay, got it. So I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, but to remove minutes of June 25th and item E. Do I hear a second?
Support.
Motion Sinkowitz, second Nedrow. Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Nedrow.
Yes.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Nagy.
Yes.
Kaznecki.
Yes.
Humble.
Yeah.
Scott.
Yes.
Thank you, council. That brings us to item 9, special meeting of June 25th, 2014. Ed?
Okay. When we were having this discussion, and I think everybody knows how I feel about it, some things hit me that I couldn't place, and I did a little investigating, and it was brought to our attention that someplace around $8,000 to $10,000 a year was spent on the building for exterior work and things like that, at a cost to over a 20-year period, be something like $187,000, I think was the numbers that you had brought up.
I don't have the numbers before me,
Okay.
but that sounds in the ballpark.
$187,500, and that's what we spend on the building. So I thought to myself, I said, well, wait a minute, if the building was retrofitted in '88, I went back as far as I could and I asked Mike to look some things up. And all he could find, now this is on the stucco in the building, that in 2012, we spent $3,000 on stucco repair. In 2010, there was a fair amount of work done, but that was, I think, the walkway and the steps and other things, and that was to a tune of around $20,000. And then again in 2006, there was something of a small amount, of someplace around $3,000 or $4,000. So the point I'm making is this is kind of a little bit skewed here to say that it cost us $8,000 to $10,000 a year to maintain the outside of the building, and since 1988 to currently 25, we probably haven't put more than $30,000 into the outside of the building.
So Ed, just to be clear on what that number was, it wasn't looking back at what we had spent. It was looking forward as a projection on, given the current state of the stucco, the repairs we've done over the last couple of years, the estimate that came from our engineer, that I believe was somewhere in the 5,000 to 10,000 range. I took that number, averaged it at 7,500 a year, and then projected that over the next 25 years.
20 years, yeah.
So what, 25?
25.
So it wasn't which was, according to our architect, the expected lifespan of the new exterior of the building. So it wasn't
But the
a retro.
The past numbers show that that's not even close, that we haven't spent anything near to that on the stucco, on this building. So I look at that and I kind of think that's a little questionable math there to say that for the next 20 years, it's going to cost us $187,000 to keep the outside of the building up. When the past has shown us that since that was done in '88, that we probably haven't spent much more than $30,000 on the outside of the building. And I think anybody who looks at the outside of the building, I mean, what's done is done. But I wanted to point that out, that I thought that 187,500 figure is definitely a very misleading number.
Okay, fair enough, and we'll capture that in the minutes of this meeting. What we have before us are the minutes of the previous meeting.
And where is that in the minutes? That's what I'm
It's
trying-
on page 2 of 6, in the first paragraph.
So let me make sure make sure it's at least phrased correctly with how I said it then.
And then there's another thing that I wanted, I think it was just misprinted. In the paragraph starting with Sinkwitz noted, it says, a bid of $350,000 was included with the last set of drawings. He visited some municipal buildings along, and no, it should be, he visited our municipal building along with a contractor in other communities.
Okay, so let's
So just the
So-
some should be the.
all right, so let me capture that as a change from some to the in the 5th line down. I have looked over the line that you said, and I think it is a little bit misleading in terms of what I said and what those numbers represented. So up there in the first paragraph, I'd like to amend the sentence that begins computing the annual stucco maintenance 5 lines down to computing the estimated annual stucco maintenance of $7,500 per year going forward yields a figure of $187,500 over the next 25 years. Just to make it clear where those numbers came from.
But then again, John, that's not factual.
It's speculation.
That's
It's a projection, though.
that was
Projection. Nothing wrong with that.
that was the estimation from our village engineer, Ed.
Okay.
And, you know, I would be happy to include that in there too.
And then-
Computing the annual stucco
Projected
maintenance,
figure.
the estimated annual stucco maintenance of $7,500 per year from our village engineer yields a figure of $187,500 over the next 25 years. I just want to make it absolutely clear where that number came from. I think you're right, the way it is phrased in there is a little vague.
Dartboard.
Well, and then the other two things that, where it says he visited some, it should be he visited the, and then he agrees that the stucco on the building is not in bad shape, but believes the metal roof is extremely expensive. That was what the developer that I had from Skyline that came 100 that thought that the stucco was in good shape. It wasn't in bad shape, other than a couple corners
So
and.
you want to say at that point, that contractor
Yes,
agrees the stucco in the village's building is in bad shape?
is not in bad shape.
Is not in bad shape.
Can we name them?
Yeah, it was Skyline Developer Construction. If you want to put the name in it.
So let me make sure that we've got our changes captured. So your changes, Ed, are he visited our municipal building singular, along with a contractor. And can we change the "in" to from other communities?
Yes,
Or for other communities, actually?
yep.
4 other communities. He agrees the stucco on the village's building is not in bad shape.
Well, the contractor disagrees that the building is in bad, the stuff is in bad shape. Just not agrees, but disagrees.
Is-
Right.
Well, he said it was not in bad shape.
He said that the stucco is not in bad shape. It still adheres to the building, it's done. And
But believe-
the only point that I was making is that 187 figure,
Yeah, actually, let me go back to that, because I'm a little confused by that too.
I
Was
would say
that-
the contractor agrees the stucco on the village's building is not in bad shape.
Why don't you just change agrees to disagrees? The contractor disagrees that the village building is in
Okay, that's
bad
fine,
shape.
whatever.
Yeah, I think
fine.
that's probably the simplest.
Either
You're
way,
right.
either way, disagrees.
So he
that the
disagrees the
building's
stucco
not
on the
in bad
village's
shape.
building is in bad shape.
That's fine, that gets the same thought across.
Yep. Okay, Ed, back to your point.
No, go ahead.
Okay, that was all I had. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the June 25th, 2014 special meeting with those changes?
So moved.
Support.
Motion Nagy, second Sinkowitz. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right,
What was the other one that Ed wanted to?
at E, we're going to
We'll
remove.
get to that one.
Let me get to it.
Got it.
That brings us to the public hearing, reprogramming prior year 2013 and 2014 community development block grant funds. Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing on reprogramming the 2013-2014 community development block grant funds?
So moved.
Motion Nagy, second Nedrow. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The public hearing for reprogramming the CDBG funds is now open. If somebody does have something to say on it, come on up to the mic. Seeing none, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing on the CDBG
So moved.
funds?
Second.
Motion Nedrow, second Nagy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to item 13A, AMEC Environmental and Infrastructure Incorporated. We have Rob Dwyer from there talking about our change order, a little more work that will get us, I believe, closer to the finale. So, Rob,
Go for
Come on
it,
up.
Rob.
Good evening. Is the mic on?
Yes.
Everybody can hear me? Thank you for having me. I looking back at my notes, oddly enough, I believe I was here 364 days ago. So I thought that was quite a coincidence. I know some
our
probably,
summertime guest.
some probably cringe when I get here, but hopefully we're inching our way towards the goal of closing out the UST issue we have. So, you know, a quick just update for those of you who haven't met with me since last year. You'll recall in early 2013, we had an audit letter from the State Department of Environmental Quality where they essentially addressed 4 main issues that they had concerns with. On behalf of the village, along with the village, we negotiated a closure plan with the department, presented that plan in a response to their audit, had a significant reduced scope from what they asked for at a cost savings at that time for the village. The state was in agreement. After we met with you last summer, we went, did some additional site assessment. The 2 main issues we looked at were the impacts to the groundwater. They requested further definition of, the horizontal extent of where those impacts were. We put in a couple additional wells. The wells were not detected. There was nothing found in the wells, so that was great news. The additional sampling in the wells that were already in place showed that all the concentrations of the chemical constituents were either stable or decreasing in concentrations, which is also good news. That's, one of the main targets that you have to, achieve to get closure. The other item that we had to look at was definition of what they define as NAPL. And, I'll try not to get too technical, but I do think it's important for everyone to understand. The NAPL is the non-aqueous phase liquid. It's essentially the gasoline. And since the time the release occurred, however many years ago, there's been new technology that was developed. The state requested that we, take a look at that technology and look at the extent of that. And that technology, I believe I told you last time, it's, and not that anybody remembers or probably even cares at that point, but it's like a laser-induced fluoroscopy. It's basically putting a laser fluorescence into the ground that reflects on gasoline. So although we were successful when we did that, we defined, the extent that was on site. The indications are that the NAPL, as well as the dissolve phase, which we already know possibly migrates off-site onto the residential neighbors' properties, the 3 neighboring properties. So following completion of that, we've met with the DEQ multiple times, we've met with the residents multiple times, we've met with the village multiple times. I think everybody, the DEQ verbally has accepted that additional work that was done. The residents have been brought up to speed. I think there's been significant progress, but as President McGee stated, there's a little bit more to do. The change order that you have for consideration in front of you is for that additional work, working on the residential properties in conjunction with the residents. We would need to get access from them, written access agreements. We've met with them all. I think they're on board. They know that work needs to get done. They know it's getting the village closer to the end game. We've worked with our contractors, the actual drilling contractors, to try to minimize the physical damage that would happen on their yards. That's always a concern to the neighbors, if we have to tear their yard up. Using a small drill rig, ATVs for the computer equipment that hooks up to them, taking the fence apart, small sections so we can access through the fence rather than through their front yards, just everything we can think of to work with the residents. They seem pleased. And the other part of, once we do that work, the other part that has to fall into place is the restrictive covenants on the village property, on the neighboring properties. And we have had discussions with the residents about those. And Sharon, I don't know if you have anything you want to add on that end, but that's, I guess, kind of where we're at with the residents and with the change order.
No, I think you've captured it all. We will have to have restrictions on their property, and they are aware of that. We don't have that paperwork for them yet, but that will be coming.
And the Department of Environmental Quality supports that plan, supports the restrictions. It is the most economical and the quickest way to bring this thing to an end.
So you're saying that on this document here, that page 4, this is what we're going to endure as an additional cost?
The costs that are laid out there, let's make sure I'm looking at the right, on page 4, the $36,790 is the additional cost above and beyond what's already been approved.
Okay, and I guess I have a couple of questions regarding that. Now, if everything comes back good, we're gonna be done? But if something comes back where we get a hit on anything, we're right back to where we were before this meeting?
I wouldn't say we're right back to where we were, but I think we
We're
went
not
through
done.
this. Yeah, I think we went through this last time, if I remember correctly. I mean, when you pop a hole in the ground, you never know what you're gonna find. We make educated guesses. I mean, based on what we've seen already, we would anticipate that this would be the end of the, site assessment, the subsurface investigations. Now, that's also assuming that the restrictions are put in place, the restrictions are put in place to address the exposure hazards with what contamination remains in the ground. So without restrictions, we, as I said earlier, we negotiated a shortened scope of services from what the DEQ originally asked. I mean, there's certain things that may have to be done to address those concerns if the restrictions aren't put in place. So, I don't mean to take us back to the beginning, but there are things that have to fall in place.
And just as kind of an overview for a lot of council who may not have been as involved in it. Essentially, the choices between us, because it is, our underground storage tank from the DPW that leaks fuel at some point. Either we can continue the monitoring for quite a long time. The DEQ really wants you to have that monitoring for over a long period of time. Or, because everybody's pretty sure we've got a stable plume, it's not moving, it's not migrating, it's not extending, we can close it in place if we assure that everybody who is down there on the affected property moves to municipal water instead of using well water. And also, to be 100% clear, we've never seen any gasoline, any product, anything in any of their well water so far. But it's the absolute step that DEQ wants to make sure that they're safe and protected before we can close it. And that's,
That's the
so.
alternative source of water.
Yeah, so that's the alternative source of water. So it's either move them onto water or continue monitoring for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and being aware that, DEQ may in the future have different requirements around it, different requirements around what we're doing, all that, so.
And not to say, I mean, thank you, President McGee, the other alternative would be to actively clean it up. And then that's a cost. I mean, we've laid out the alternatives and the costs, and I believe, like I said, the quickest, the most economical, and the method that's protective to the environment and the safety of the residents is to go the route we're going.
Now, the other question I asked you, wanted to ask you, I see you say private utility locating costs. With all the drilling that's been done there, you have to know where all the utilities are. And secondly, how many holes do you think you're gonna drill on that property?
First, with the private utility locate, this is once again, and I should have mentioned that with the, protection of the resident's property and more so the physical damage. We will, as required by law, call the MISDIG one call utility locate, but the residents have septic systems and whatever other utilities may be on their property that we're not aware of. We've discussed this with the village and discussed it with the residents of doing a private utility locate, and it's a ground penetrating radar. It's a GPR. And they're on little sleds for lack probably of my technical ability to explain it better, but
So
it,
that wasn't done when all the other drilling was done?
that was not done when all the other drilling was done. We're expecting to answer, maybe it'll make a little more sense to answer your other question. We've allowed up to 20 to 24 soil borings to do this process on the neighboring yards. And these are different than the soil borings or the monitor wells that have been done. It's a small metal rod that goes in the ground. And
You're talking about a GeoPro?
It's a GeoPro, but it electrically logs it, so there's no well left in place, there's no soil boring left in place. So knowing where the utilities are, the possible septic tanks, that type of thing is important, as well as working with Powell Engineering regarding the location of the property lines, so we can accurately define, if found, where the NAPL is present and how it relates to the property lines, because that could also impact what type of restrictions and how big the restriction has to be. In other words, does this parcel need to be included versus that one?
Okay, I'm convinced.
Couple other questions for, I'm sorry.
No, you go first, and you might ask the same thing I
From a historical viewpoint, since I haven't been involved in all of this discussion over time, is there any rough estimate as to how much the village has spent in this process over time? What is the total, just out of curiosity?
I do not think we have ever actually formally assembled
Mhm.
a total, but as I was looking at this, I was thinking to myself, you know, if back when this was originally detected, we had just dug it all out and put in new, we probably would have been better off in the long run.
Further ahead, so you must have an estimate, or we can get an estimate.
I wouldn't wanna be quoted on, but I'd guess at least $200,000, probably
Oh, okay, so
$300,000
this
or
is
something.
50% of total cost to date, this additional 145,190, right? Or we're just adding the
Which-
36?
We're adding
We're
it
just
to-
adding
We're just adding the
36
36.
right now.
All right, all right. On the other estimate,
I mean, it's, you know, it's a 20-year history of
yeah.
studies,
Well, I remember
we've tried a few other remediations.
I think you're more than 200.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just curious, maybe we ought to bring that into the
I
record.
said 200, 300. I'm being conservative. I don't wanna say, you know,
One bit of
8 billion, but.
One bit of a clarification is, the biggest problem that we had when they took the tank out was that, first of all, the tank didn't show any sign of leaking, so everybody goes, well, phew, thank you. But from filling and spilling, and the problem is that it's all sand and it's wet. And a lot of times when you get into that, you dig and you just make more of a problem. You're spreading it farther and farther and farther, because obviously the plume floats, and as you dig, it just goes and it goes, and you can't catch it. Probably the best thing would have been done would be to extract the water out of that hole when it was open there, but, you know, hindsight's 20/20, and,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and I don't think there was an environmental company involved with the,
There was,
FBS.
yep.
when it was removed?
Yes.
Were they here? Okay. But anyway, you know,
I'm sure I would have made the same decisions at the time. I'm
once you
totally playing
open the
hindsight
hole
game
up, you
here.
know, you're kind of like, uh-oh.
And because it is sand, it would really be an enormous excavation.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think you'd ever be able to excavate it, because every time you took out a bucket load would fall in. And once the DPW building went in there, then you could dig farther and farther. So it's just a worst-case scenario.
I guess an add-on question to that, we will be supplying, I guess, the 3 homes with village water then. So the cost of that implementation is another cost to the village, the lack of tap fees
Yes.
and other
Yep.
items. Okay. And back to Ed's question, am I wrong in assuming that, as you said, you have to do more surveying, I guess, to determine certain underground items that you don't or can't be sure are there or not? Septic tanks.
Is the ground penetrating radar that we talked about, but we're also
Yeah.
doing a physical survey, or at least I believe Mike's up for consideration for those services to physically locate them so they can be, so we know where they're at when we're drilling in the field, and then we also can place them on the diagrams to be used in the reports and in the restrictive covenants.
Okay, I just was curious, is that, I guess for the lack of any better way of saying it, an increase in the radius or the diameter from, on a testing standpoint? Are you going further away from where this plume should be, or?
Our hope is
Covering
that-
more ground, I guess, is what I'm asking.
What we've been seeing with the LIF, the laser technology that we're using, is the portion that we've mapped on the village property closely mirrors the dissolved phase groundwater plume that we've already mapped. So, like I said, based on the knowledge we have and what we've seen to date, we would assume that it would mirror that on the residential properties,
Okay.
but there's, you know, there's other things to consider, the lithology underneath it, the septics and how, septic fields and how that might have affected the flow, if at all. So the short answer is no, we don't expect to be outside of that area that's already known.
I was asking some of those questions because I do get people who do watch the television who do wonder what we're talking about at times. So those
And this one is,
clarifications
as
helped me a little bit.
you know,
hopefully.
particularly arcane.
Yeah, that's one of those up here kind of discussions we're having, so, thank you.
Anybody else on with questions for Rob?
Rob, after we receive closure with the DEQ and they're accepting our report, do you expect continuing monitoring over a period of years to watch what's going on?
Mike, the expectation is if the closure plan is executed as laid out and as agreed upon with the department, that there would be no long-term monitoring. So the initial plan that was laid out when they audited it had, I believe it was 10 years of monitoring on the tail end, because the receptor as the drinking water wells would still be in place. We've negotiated, at this point, that there would be no long-term monitoring. There would be additional steps related to abandoning the monitor wells, and then we might be getting, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves and knock on some wood, but, you'd have to abandon the monitor wells and put a due care plan in place so you don't exacerbate, the issues and, have a plan for handling that contamination that's left in place in the long term.
So there will be additional fees you'll be presenting to council even after the DEQ approves the closure plan?
They have a 6-month audit window is typically what they have.
Okay,
So
thank you.
the answer, yes. If it's closed, there's fees associated with abandoning those wells. You're not talking on the order of what you're looking at now, though.
Let's see, do I hear a motion to approve change order number 3 for a cost not to exceed $36,790?
I'll make that motion.
Motion Nagy.
I'll second that.
Second Cumbo. Further discussion?
We've been involved in this pretty closely over the last few years, and excuse me, we're working towards closure, and as my recollection serves me, the state was kind of kept moving the goalpost, for lack of a better analogy.
Mhm.
And now we've reached the point where by the first quarter of next year, things should be fine, and things should be stable, and I think it's, thank goodness we're that far. My concerns, I guess, really are the restrictive covenants. I mean, covenants. Are we confident that everyone's on board with all this in terms of?
We've had meetings with the residents, and we haven't given them the paperwork yet because we don't have it from the DEQ yet, but they are aware of what would be in there, yes.
Okay, and the DEQ is comfortable with that as well.
Yes, that's correct. The DQ that we've met with has not only been the project manager on the site, but the compliance manager and enforcement person who would be reviewing the restrictions and the closure report.
And they require certain things. We don't get to change the restrictive covenants.
Yeah, it's really their language.
They
tell
do.
us
I know
what's
that,
going to be in
but
there,
they
so.
have to agree to, I mean.
The residents, yes.
They have to
Yes.
agree.
Yes.
And that's the discussions that we've had, or you've had with them.
Yes, we've had discussions
Yeah.
with them.
I might add to that if I can. I know we're in the additional discussion, but the work that needs to be done with the LIF in the neighbor's yard would need to be done regardless if the restrictions were put in place or not. So I think maybe with your concern about, I know probably where you're going with that's something that maybe you should understand also, that without those restrictions, you still need to do that work.
We would still have to do that as a part of the ongoing monitoring that
Correct.
the state would require.
That's all I have.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Sinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Maggie?
Yes.
Kaznecki?
Yes.
Humbo?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Sedro?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Don't take it personally, but I look forward to not seeing you here next July. Okay, that brings us to item B1. We don't get to move on from the topic. We just move to a new cost center. Underground storage tank survey services.
Council, this goes in cooperation with the AMEC change order number 3. In order to close this out, the DEQ needs very close control on precisely where all those wells are. Originally, I gave AMEC a price of about $900 just to locate each of the wells, both horizontally and vertically, and allow them to use that number. Unfortunately, they said that's not quite enough. We need actually a meets and bounds survey of the 3 residential properties, a meets and bounds survey of the village property here, and then on top of that, and all the wells, but then we need to go in and detail out precisely where they've located the edge of that plume or the Napple area, so that all that can be defined on the properties, and then a meets and bounds description of all of that legal work, all that field work done. So based upon that, our estimate is, not our estimate, our fee is $3,800 in order to do all that surveying and legal description work.
All right. Questions for the engineer?
At that time, you're gonna, if I read this right, you'll identify where those wells are for future?
Yes, they'll be
We have a
identified.
map, or that we in the yard, or how will that be done?
They'll be actually on a map in the yard, but they'll be given latitude, longitude, precise coordinates, and a vertical elevation.
Seeing no further questions, do I hear a motion to approve, make sure I've got it right here, to approve the additional surveying requirements for Pollen Engineering for a cost not to exceed $3,800?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Scott, second Nagy. Further discussion?
What time frame are we talking about to get the work done?
We've asked AMEC to provide us with a window of a couple days or at least a week as to when they're going to be out doing that drilling. We'd like to only do it once, come out, do the surveying, and while we're doing that, we can actually pick up the work that they're doing, so we don't have to come out 2 or 3 times in order to do the surveying.
So you coordinated with AMEC, so.
Correct.
From, back to Rob, I mean, are we talking about doing it this summer, in next month?
We hope to, yes. We do need to get the access agreements with the neighbors, which I don't think will be an issue,
Okay.
so.
I mean, we've gone this far, let's not drag our feet, shall we say?
Later in July or into August.
Okay.
As further discussion, like I pinned Rob down on some additional costs, obviously there's design and construction of that water main coming in off of Glengarry Road, running down Marshar. So that will have to be worked in the future as well.
All right, anything else on the motion? Roll call vote?
McGee?
Yes.
Nagy?
Yes.
Kaznecki?
Yes.
Humble?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Nedrow?
Yes.
Shinkwitz?
Yes.
Thank you, council. On to B2, Cadillac Asphalt Pay Estimate Number 2 in the amount of $285,000. $285,000.
That's a nice round number.
I just kept expecting more numbers afterwards.
Exactly. This is the second pay request from Cadillac Asphalt. We've gone through all the numbers and verified that their quantities are accurate. We've actually, I don't know if it was provided, yes it was, the changes that I made to their invoice because I didn't quite agree with those. I expect only one more invoice at next month's, as you probably have seen coming up and down the roadway, that the restoration is almost complete. There's one homeowner on Apple Orchard that isn't done yet because he's got he actually, he's a very meticulous man, and he's got irrigation system that went across that ditch line, and so the contractor has to repair all the irrigation as well. So that's the only thing left. So there'll be a little additional to this at next month's meeting, but this is the end of the large pay requests.
So what's the now that we've got pretty much all the quantities in, can't remember last month's, about how much are we total on this project?
I apologize. I think it was 345,000 last month and 285,000 this month.
So we're going to come in somewhere in the 650 to 700,000 range overall.
We're trying to keep it down about 640,000 in that range.
Is that everything?
That would be everything.
The culverts?
Culverts are already in this because they've been done for a while, so.
Just to be clear, not the big culvert work that we did on Glengarry and Wolverine, but the small culverts as part of this paving project.
Yes, thank you, President, that's correct.
Do I hear a motion?
Sure, make a motion to approve that based upon Mr. Powell's recommendation, $285,000 to Cadillac Asphalt. With the, that's $299,369.71 less the 5% retainage.
Second.
Motion Nagy, second Kaznecki. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Nagy?
Yes.
Kaznecki?
Yes.
Humble?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Nedrow?
Yes.
Shinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Mr. President, yeah, question, Mr. Powell. Is not
Sure. I had a
relative, now,
couple
once
follow-ups.
Cadillac is done, we were gonna work on the pathway, or the walkway, or whatever, but we wanted Cadillac out of the way now. Do we have any kind of time frame now that we know Cadillac's like getting close to the end, that we can bring this other contractor in to start working on
I think you'll find the village contractor has, if not totally completed, almost totally completed the Vita Trail remilling.
Yeah, I saw that.
So that work is done. Just as soon as he has finished this, he's going to start running all the way down to South Commerce Road. We've given him some latitude. He's not going to be working on it full-time. He's going to be in and out of doing that as he's doing his other clients' projects. He believes he'll be able to finish it in the next 30 to 45 days.
Was that putting
Weather,
down the
weather certainly plays a part in that, but yes.
Was that putting down the base of the millings we have and also completing, or is that, but we still have to have a contractor to complete the
We're still
final
gonna have
top
to
coat?
pave it afterwards, yeah.
Okay.
A couple of things I wanted to mention. On this road, you know, I hope everybody realizes that when a municipality maintains a road and the county doesn't, the longevity of the road, there's no comparison. I don't think Oakland County's ever put a road down where they've gotten over 20 years, and that road had got 40. So, you know, when you see a pothole, you fix it. When you see a crack, you take care of it. You just don't let it get worse and worse. So there's some real logistics there. But the one thing I want to point out to you, Mike, when we get down to, and you might have even thought this, our crack sealing in the fall, there's some places where the asphalt there, when they come up, you know, they can't roll over it as much as they did on the other, that any of those joints where they're not really tight, we want to get those all taken care of, like where the pathway meets the road over here and some of the other ones, so we make sure that all that road is sealed, so it's going to be watertight.
Yes, Mr. Sinkowitz is astute as normal. We always look to do the crack sealing, anything like that, on the newest paved streets first, so we don't get water intrusion down underneath that pavement. And then we work backwards then with the budget available to the older streets. So, Ed, you're exactly correct.
Good.
I actually had a follow-up, just kind of related to the pathway construction, and might be one we can't answer yet, but do we expect to actually use all the millings we have on the pathways? Are we likely to have a few leftover millings? Are we, you know, where do we stand on Mount Wolverine?
I fully expect that we'll have a substantial amount of millings left over that we can offer to residents, and we can even offer to adjacent surrounding communities or contractors to restore those park and the DPW yard. So we expect extra millings left.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that. I was thinking, you know, there are a couple places where either, you know, milled pathways, not true pathways, but a couple places we could put something in that might be helpful there too, around the village. So it might be worth thinking about that as follow-up. If there are places where we think those would be of benefit, this is a good month to look around, walk around, see what we can do with them, and, you know, let's get every dollar we can out of them. Anything else for the engineer?
There's
See-
one quick question. None of those milling can be used, I mean, it's for roadway fine, but for sealing holes or filling up holes, et cetera, in any of our roadways, it wouldn't be a good idea to use it?
No, you can't. Remember, they're fairly loose and they get packed down, but they're always going to be available. They'd always pop back out again. It'd be like putting gravel in. So no, we can't use those for filling.
Thank you.
All right, on to item 13C, Lakes Area Youth Assistance Council Representative. Ron, I understand you can't carry on in that capacity.
I would like to, but they meet on Wednesdays midday on council days, and it's become difficult for me to make the meetings, and I think they deserve more constant, reliable representation from the village than I can, at this point, provide. So I needed to back out of that. Brian was helping me as an alternate, but between the two of us, we've been, even with Brian's help,
Struggling too, yeah.
it's been difficult. And I think if someone else can step in, I think that would be best for the Lakes Area youth, and I hope that someone can step up. I enjoyed, I enjoyed my time there, and it's a wonderful organization. But between the number of committees that I serve on now, it was just, and time-wise, when they meet, logistically, it made it very, very difficult.
So they are always midday, like lunchtime?
11:30.
11:30.
11:30 to 1.
Second Wednesday.
Typically.
Yeah.
Well, do we have anybody who thinks they can make that?
I got commitments for Wednesday, I can't do that.
I can serve as an alternate, I suppose, as, things are moving forward, but I think they need an anchor. We need someone that can devote more time than I can. Like Mike Stack did in the prior
Mhm.
council. Did a wonderful job, and I'm not providing the services or the support that organization deserves from the village, frankly. So, with no volunteers, I will continue on. I will let them know, but it's been difficult.
I believe we have an interested person here, Mike Stack, our
Mike Stack, 701 Laguna. And we do have great representation on Lakes Area Youth Assistance right now. Our police are a big supporter of it. Our administrator supports whenever asked, whenever needed. Having a council member would be a plus because it is nice to have an elected official, or it doesn't necessarily have to be an elected official. We could have somebody from up in the office there, and maybe a council member that could alternate with them. I mean, there's no stipulation that it has to be, it is nice to have the elected official, but the one event that we had where they wanted an elected official from each community, that event no longer is taking place, the youth recognition. It was too hard to get the applications back, so we were keeping the scholarship portion, but we eliminated that. So otherwise, I mean, if we could get, we already do have resident there that's involved. Our police are very involved. So council member or
I would
office
be
member.
happy to volunteer along with, maybe between the three of us, we could
We can make a meeting.
alternate. I'd be happy to help too. It is on council day, that's a busy day for me too, but I would be happy to try
Is it-
to volunteer.
Once a month or twice?
It's once a month, but
Once a
then
month.
they, they do other things too. I mean, it's a volunteer organization, very similar to Parks and Rec in the regards that the board does the work as well, and I have not contributed to that efforts like I expected to be able to, but if we can do it as a group, I would love to be part of it. I mean, it hurts me to have to back away from it, but I think they deserve more. And if we can address that as a group, that would be great. And if I can be part of that group, that's even better.
We do have an election coming up in a few months, so
Yes.
we'll see if we have somebody who has scope and interest joining us, if that happens.
Yep.
Okay.
So do I hear a motion to ask Miller, Cumbo, and Nedrow to serve as a joint representation for Lakes Area Youth Assistance?
Tried to tag team it before.
I would make that motion.
I'll support it.
Motion Cumbo,
It wasn't
second
flying from
Nedrow.
anywhere else, so.
Further discussion. I would say, I do feel,
They might not have me
at
back.
some level, as council members, we want to be, everything we do, we get involved because we're active. You see an organization, and that's an organization that has, more need than anybody can do. So it's really, there are some times where we're just going to have to occasionally show up, be a representative, bring back information. I feel the village is really well involved in that organization, so, make sure nobody beats themselves up too much because you can't do everything.
No, you can't. That's true.
So, any further discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, CDBG reprogramming 2013 and 2014 funds. Sharon, you
No,
want-
12 and 13.
20, it says 2013, 2014 on
No, I did it wrong
on the
on
agenda,
14.
but
The
in fact, you're
agenda
right,
is
it
wrong.
is 2012 and 2013. It
That's
is
where you were.
prior year funds that we have to move from what they were designated as to I believe, an acceptable designation. It's really just the phrasing. It was the same
Yep.
activity.
The reason we have to reprogram is because if you don't use them, you will lose the funds. And the 2012, we will lose in August, and we will lose the 2013 shortly after that. So the hope is to reprogram them to housing rehabilitation, and that goes through the county, and it can be used for sanitary sewer hookup. They can designate up to $18,000, where the village can only give one homeowner $5,000. So we've advertised, we've had it in the, on the website and newsletters, and we don't have people that can use it here, so we would lose it. If we reprogram it to this housing rehabilitation, then it goes through the county and it gets used.
It can be used anywhere in the county, though.
Yes, it
It's
can.
not designated for,
It can, but it can
Here.
also be used for sewer hookup, and we do have people that could
yeah,
could
right.
use help with that.
So, but if we don't give it there, it
We lose it.
goes
I know.
back, yeah.
Now,
It
is
goes
this
back
a
to people.
grant or is this a loan?
It's a grant.
Grant, so they don't have to pay it back?
I believe it is a,
I think you have to
yes,
qualify.
you have to qualify.
You have
Right.
to be income qualified.
And I do believe that when you sell your house, it does have to be,
Okay,
It's kind of like a lien
Yes,
on the house. I
yes.
believe.
Yep.
all right,
yes.
that's what I thought.
Do I hear a motion to reprogram the funds as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Nedrow, second Kaznecki. Further discussion? Yeah, I think it's an appropriate use of the
Yeah.
funds, so.
I do too.
That makes sense to me. Let me get a roll call vote.
Keswick?
Yes.
Rambo?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Nedrow?
Yes.
Sinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Nagy?
Yes.
All right.
E.
Item E, annual landscaping. Ed, I'll let you start.
I guess I'm just curious why we're farming this out for another year. We've got, and extended the time for our part-time person to be here. And is it that it's something they don't want to do, or they feel they can't do, or? Because they still take care of all the flowers around the building, correct?
No, the only thing that gets taken, this is part of the flowers around the building also,
So this is the building and the sign?
and all the signs.
Okay.
And it's more than just planting. If you look at one of the pictures, you see the one at Benstein.
Yep.
She actually puts some rocks and some landscaping around. She changes the flowers for each season. And I think it's been a big improvement to the village. She waters them. We
Weeds.
don't have water available, so they're maintained. And I think for $3,000, that's a good value for the village.
6 signs plus the building. I will say, I think the signs have looked much better doing it this way than any of the things we've tried before.
I think it's important to note that the $3,000 is a discounted from
Yes.
the
She has
45,
discounted.
whatever
Yeah,
that
I
was,
know what you're talking about.
$4,500
Yeah.
or something.
Yes.
Okay.
So do I hear a motion to approve renewal of the annual contract at a cost of $3,000 as presented?
So moved.
Motion Scott, second Nagy. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Rambo?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Nedrow?
Yes.
Sinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Nagy?
Yes.
Keswick?
Yes.
All right. Item G brings us to the second call to the public, an opportunity for citizens to address the council regarding any and all village business. Mr. Simplitz, either come on up or we'll hand you a mic.
Gene Matkowski, 670 Wolverine Drive. I'd like to compliment the administration, the police department, the DPW on the recent fireworks that we had, Tiki Night. Everything went very well. That's the good news. The bad news, I'd like to know is how come that hayfield on South Commerce doesn't get cut? Don't we have a ordinance on length of grass? Thank you.
Thank you. Direct that one to the administrator. Anybody else, second call to the public?
Mike Stack, 701 Laguna.
And just would like to say what a great job the police did on Tiki Night. They had a great presence along Laguna. They had the cars out of there in no time flat. Everybody, I heard a lot of comments from people walking up and down the street about all the police they saw and how great it was that the police were so, and how friendly the police were. So we had the officers from Oakland County, we had them from Wixom, we had them from Walled Lake, and of course our own. And then our Captain Ellsworth, he did, and the 4th, made a quick call to him, and I said, my 2-year-old niece keeps saying she wants to go in a cop car. And so and he came over and let her see the cop car. And now she calls it the police car, and Captain John is the chief of all polices. So just thank you for a great effort out there that night.
Anybody else, second call to the public? Seeing none, I will close the second call. Brings us up to item I, Municipal Employees Retirement System, MERS, and a recommendation from our treasurer, who unfortunately is not here, so Sharon, I'll ask you to introduce this.
What you have in front of you is a letter from Treasurer Conduct. We met with the negotiation committee and police department to talk about the MERS contribution and a bond to pay off the unfunded liability. And what you have as a recommendation is to form a working professional group to help the negotiation committee understand what the bond would consist of, and the group would be our financial advisor and our auditor, and of course the negotiation committee, and someone from some Fifth Third Securities. There will probably be some costs involved in gathering these people to gather research and information. So that's why it's in front of you to make a motion, hopefully to allow that group to start working on what it would take to float this bond for the MERS.
And I'd also like to see us do our due diligence here and be able to do it as quickly as possible. So
I
I think
thought
we're
the
gonna-
same thing. I thought the same.
We're going to need to put in a little funding on our side to make sure that we've got these services of folks and have them take a look and come back with a recommendation. So I
I
think
think
what.
more of the problem is trying to figure out what the costs are gonna be involved
Yeah.
of floating a bond like this.
Yeah.
Mike just can't put it together by himself, so we need some help on that front.
So I think what I'd like here is a motion to approve up to $1,000 to investigate,
I think you need more than 1,000, John. I mean, you're getting a lot of professional people here.
I would accept more than that. I want to make sure we don't spend $1 billion on it, but I do want to make sure that, yeah, you're right. We
You know,
need.
it's just, you hire an attorney
Yeah.
and, it doesn't take long to get And we have such a good one, too. It adds up real quick.
No,
and
yeah,
These people are
yeah.
professional. I don't know,
Well, Ed, pick a number.
5,000.
Not to
Okay.
exceed.
Not to exceed. I think that's fair. So,
At
Two-
least we can get the information and the facts and put this,
Yep.
hopefully put this either forward or put it to bed and everybody knows where we're at.
okay, yeah, so do I hear that as a motion
Motion, yes.
to approve up to $5,000 to assemble the committee as presented and investigate?
And come back
proposed
with
bond.
solutions or.
Yep.
Yeah.
Support.
So motion Sinkowitz, second Nedrow, further discussion?
I think it's very valuable, Pass, because, I'm on the negotiation committee, and some clarity and some real definitive answers would be enormously beneficial. it's hard to follow this story and make sense for me, and that would be very, very helpful, so. I support that motion, greatly.
Okay, well, let's make sure we get you guys the help you need. I believe our police captain.
The only thing I would throw into there is as soon as possible. Our rates have jumped to a quarter.
I agree completely.
25% of our pay goes directly to MERS currently.
Yeah, so.
So,
Well,
That's-
I would assume that, because I know we have that December deadline,
Mhm.
that Mike has people in mind that he could
Yeah, I think he does. He's got kind
contact
of
them
the,
and get them together, and he might even have a better idea on what kind of numbers we're looking at too, so.
yeah, I think we can assemble this group pretty quickly.
Well, he's laid out the people that he has in
Yep.
mind
Right.
in this
Yep.
letter, so.
And we hope that MERS will be cooperative with, with real numbers. Anyway.
Yes,
motion
it is
on
to be
floor.
hoped this time. Any further discussion on the motion? Can we get a roll call vote?
Scott?
Yes.
Medro?
Yes.
Sikowitz?
Yes.
Lenny?
Yes.
Maggie?
Yes.
Jablonski?
Yes.
Trumbull?
Yes.
Thank you, council. We'll try to get that rolling as quickly as possible. Item J, set topics for the July 2014 work session.
I won't be here, so.
Well, in terms of pending business, I don't think either one of the ones that we have pending right now is urgent.
Make a motion that we do not have a work session this month.
I'll second that.
Motion second, Kaznecky, just beat you out there, Ed. Further discussion? I think that makes sense. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Everybody likes
That was too loud, aye.
That was the loudest aye of the night.
Aye, aye, aye.
Update from Captain Ellsworth.
Great tiki night. It was very safe.
Mike,
No injuries.
Mike.
Oh, I thought you were talking to him.
I'm talking now first. He already had a chance.
Mike John, how's that?
It was a great tiki night. It was, in our estimation, very uneventful for being the 10th year. I thought.
That's the way we like it.
That's the way, I was able to sleep that night. Very limited amount of any incidents, a couple of small things, parking. We did change things up a little bit. We were able to use some no parking signs. I don't know if you wandered over that way. They really worked out in the intersections, kept the intersections clear. We did not have the double parking like we had before. We had great cooperation with Oakland County Sheriff's Department. Sergeant Lloyd Lacey is back now in the Commerce area, so we were able to utilize him. Wixom Police Department and Wall Lake Police Department both were a great asset. And Sergeant Cunningham did a great job directing the troops. On a sour note, about 6:45 this morning, I started getting phone calls from folks that lived along Rose Lawn. Two juveniles, well, I don't want to call them juveniles, two young men under the age of 20 went down Rose Lawn and demolished about 23 mailboxes. Some American flags were actually ripped off the mailboxes and burned. These guys have gotten away temporarily. We are using a lot of resources to capture these guys. This is the third time this year that these two guys have been seen doing this. If you see something, say something, please. We've pretty much two or three of the reports that we've gotten today, the people actually watched them do it, but didn't want to pick up the phone and call until this morning. So I was very busy today. That, along with the moving and the restructuring of my office, it's been a very long day. But other than that, we hope we can get moving on this MERS. I know that's at the top of all the officers' minds, and we can move on with that. So, other than that, I did partake in a parade on July 4th over at Nantucket Beach with about 20 kids. That was fun. That's our annual thing we do on July 4th at noon. And I can't think of anything else. Can you think of anything else?
Well, I have all kinds of stuff.
Oh, I'll let you, I'll save it for you then. Other than that, that was it. I'll be looking forward to vacation next week.
Captain, a couple.
Well earned.
A couple questions.
Sure.
When we had the outage, the weather came through a week or
Yep.
so ago,
Mhm.
do we have any incidences from that people knew power was out and they were trying to break in houses or anything
Nope.
like that? Everything was?
Nope, everything, there are two types of communities. Some where people take advantage of those situations, and some where people really come together and help each other out. Thank God we're in a community where we come together and help each other out. We had a lot of people coming out with chainsaws. We had 4 trees across Glengarry. But I actually came into work at about 4:30 that morning, but I was listening to the radio all the way in, and I knew Glengarry was blocked. So I snuck my way in through the subdivisions, but by the time I got here, got in my patrol car, got on the road, we had, our fire department was out, a lot of local landscape companies were out. They had the road pretty much cleared so we could get through, which was really nice. They were smart enough to check for, obviously, all the downed wires, but the majority of the problem weren't the power outages, it was the tree limbs across the
Yeah, it was
road.
bad.
So we're very fortunate in that aspect.
One other question relative to the lake patrols this summer. How are things going so far? We got any bad guys out there, or has it been fairly quiet out there?
We have had a couple of incidents, nothing out of the ordinary, late boaters, things of that nature. I have to remind a few people sometimes to put their yearly stickers on their boats. We know that they've got them, but we've had some folks out there with 14 stickers on it, and I've had to stop and talk to. But overall, it's been
Quiet.
a pretty good year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Another sad thing that happened on July 3rd was I was in contact with our fire marshal, who always comes and inspects our barge. His wife had emergency surgery that night, and she had a heart attack during surgery, and she was on a ventilator. This morning, she passed away. So Todd Martin's wife passed away. So our condolences go out to the Martin family and the Commerce Township Fire Department.
All right. We don't have the treasurer here tonight, so we'll proceed to the update from the administrator.
I wanted to thank the Fireworks Committee for all the work they do every year, and the police department, DPW, and staff, because it was a great evening, and everything fell into place, and we're becoming pros at this, so we know exactly what we have to do every year. And it was a really good show. We did add a little more money this year. We had some conversations with Zambelli, and I think it was a really good show. Mike mentioned the Vita Trail project. The millings have been placed, and I believe the concrete is supposed to be poured this week for the equipment, and once that's cured, we'll be installing the Vita Trail equipment. You've probably seen the harvester out. It's up and running. It's working great. The guys have the GPS working, and that's working really well with the lake consultant, so we know precisely where to harvest. We have an election coming up in November, and believe it or not, you have to have your petitions filed by July 22nd of this year. It's coming up, a couple weeks. And they have to be filed with Commerce Township, and we have 4 council members that are up for election. Ron, Pam, John, and Ed. So we are going to need at least 4 people to run, and hopefully we'll have a good election. We've treated the lake twice already, and we will be treating again on July 16th. It looks like the lake is in really good shape this year. I haven't had any complaints. We had a
Now, that's record-setting.
I know. We had a pre-construction meeting yesterday for the building renovation. Lasted quite a few hours all morning, and ACS actually had 4 representatives from their company here. We had our engineer, Mike Powell, and our architect here, and it was a very good meeting, and I think we're going to have a really good project. I talked with, did you have more on that? I talked with Richard Batt today from Redwood, and the appraisal of the property is scheduled for next week. We have gotten all of our engineering done and all of our attorneys' work taken care of, but they had some problems with the cell tower, the legal description, and that's really not on our property, but it's the adjoining property that they're trying to close at the same time. And evidently, the people put all of the property in with the cell tower, so now they have to redo that a little bit. But they're still expecting to close on that property at the end of the month. He did let me know that 92 out of the 98 units in Commerce are already leased, and they're not all built. And some of them are $1,700 a month, so they're doing very well in Commerce Township, and they're really excited and anxious to get started here. I also have tickets for Taste of the Lakes, and that'll be September 18th, and you can get them from me for $25 or $30 at the door. I think that's all.
How about aeration?
Aeration is at a standstill right now. We're having some difficulty with the DEQ and the amount of samplings and when they need the samplings. I've talked to our Senator Colwell, and he has been in touch with the director of the DEQ, and so the pond guy has done everything they can do. The electricity is ready to go. We're just waiting for the DEQ. And I talked with John today, and I don't know if he has any update.
Phone messages into Colwall and
Yeah.
phone messages into Dave,
Yeah.
trying to get the offensive team together so we can put a meeting together, hopefully in Lansing.
Yeah, we may have
Go
to
to
go
the
to
source
Lansing.
rather than to Warren, because
Be
Warren
the
knows
first time.
nothing about
Yeah.
this. so.
Have you
Yeah.
contacted Clint Castro?
I've
No.
left a message for Clint.
So we're working on it. We're contacting everyone we can, but it sounds like they want samples up into September before they'll even let us start the process. So we're not happy.
Because we're acting,
Yeah.
And we have enough sampling data in this lake.
Yes.
There's not too many lakes that have.
Oh, well, there are very few,
Our
actually,
Water
that have-
Management Board
Yeah.
from day one has
Yeah.
done so much that it's.
I think a meeting in
Just
Lansing will
silly.
clarify an awful lot.
Yeah, I
And
think so
that's what we
too.
need to go for.
Yes.
so.
Waiting for the DEQ, four of my least
Waiting
favorite
for the
words.
DEQ. Well, it seems to be new ground for the people in Warren, Michigan. So that's really the issue, more than anything else.
Have we ever talked to the communities on the western half of the state who have done it? And if they give us maybe some kind of insight on how you can get around some of these things and how you can speed up the DEQ?
Well, they have been successful at that, yeah.
Yeah, but maybe, are we doing the same thing they did, or is it just
I
politics?
think it's a different group
Yeah.
Okay.
that we are having installed here, and I think the other part of it is that Kalamazoo and Jackson would admit that there's no coordination with what goes on in the Detroit metro area. And that is counter to at least two or three different phone calls I've had with people on the west side who say that there's been one, if not two, state meetings to coordinate the whole issue of variation. So we're going to find that out. We're going to find out why we're not getting the kind of attention we should. And I think that's easiest in a meeting rather than trying to do it through distance.
Yeah,
So-
agree.
So when we get a date, maybe 40 of us can show up.
That'd be a good idea.
Or two. It doesn't really matter.
As many as possible.
Yeah.
All right, brings us to council comments. Combo.
I share everyone's, thanking the fireworks committee and the police and everyone involved at Tiki Night. It worked out great. The show was wonderful, and I had a great time, and I've heard nothing but positive things about that. And then regarding the chief's concerns about the mirrors issue, I think that, I agree with you, we should move this thing moving forward as quickly as possible, and I'm sure we will. And I recognize that it's a punitive situation for the force, and we'll get that moving as quick as possible. That's all I have. Thank you.
Kaznicki.
ditto with what Ron said, as well as, I thought maybe Sharon would mention something, but Sharon and myself and John and Lynn did meet the 27th of June, our little Finance Park and Rec Committee. And it was an excellent meeting. I think we got off to a really good start. And I'm really anxious to continue with that. And I think we're going to do very well with that. And John showed up too, by the way. So,
Just as interested member of the panel.
so thanks to the police as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's one person that walks away from that night not thinking it's just a wonderful night. We've been so blessed with some good weather. A little iffy earlier in the day, but it turned out really, really nice. And I know Shanken was hit hard with that storm too. My sister's on Shanken, and my brother-in-law took a picture of a pontoon boat upside down.
Yeah, we had one upside down.
Yeah.
It came right
Yeah,
across there.
so, anyway, so, thanks.
Maggie.
Yeah, I support what Ron has said too about MERS and relative to the fireworks. I think it was a great night. My dog still can't get over fireworks. But other than that, he had a good time. Okay.
You know, we actually used a Thunder shirt on our Beagle
We've
this year.
we've got a Thunder shirt and we've got some medication from the vet that sort of knocks them out a little bit, and that helped. Okay.
A beer will work too.
Yeah.
I was skeptical as can be, but the Thunder shirt actually
yeah.
helped.
Yeah, we've got one for our dog too.
It's sort of a,
They're not hunting dogs.
it's a tight little shirt that you put on and you kind of Velcros around it. It gives the dog some compression around the chest, and it makes them feel more secure. And I looked at that and I thought, well, that can't possibly work. And it really actually helped quite a bit with our dog. Our dog was much calmer this year than in previous years.
Between the Thunder shirt and the medication. the dog-
I don't guarantee it for anybody's dog. All I'm saying is,
I have a Thunder shirt.
You've got yours on.
I support it too, John.
I was as skeptical as could be, but I'm like, wow, I can't believe it. That worked. Scott.
Well, I think it goes without question, I have to join everybody else about Tiki Night. We just came in that night because we were up north with my kids and grandkids, but it goes without saying, everybody just has a great time, and it's so well orchestrated. It's just amazing. And the weather, it was interesting to hear what was happening to the village of Wolverine Lake in Traverse City.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they mentioned it all of the time.
Made TV too.
Yeah, made TV, so.
I wouldn't know. I didn't have any power to watch TV.
So all well handled. Thank you.
Nedro.
Same as everybody else on Tiki Night. Had a great time. Another wonderful evening. Glad everything went safe.
Sinkowitz.
There's not much you can say that somebody hasn't said already. I mean, just the coordination and the weatherman up above made everything happen right, and the fireworks, the crowd seemed to be well behaved. It was really a nice thing. I have a few questions. When we do the weed application, sometimes on Wednesday, is there any chemical that would go into the weekend? Some of the
No,
chemicals.
that's why we're trying to do them all on Wednesday now.
Okay. I guess my question was, is there any reason why, if there was something that might be a stronger chemical going there, is there any reason why we can't post on Friday and do it on Monday or Tuesday?
Well, we're supposed to post 2 days before. That's a requirement. If we start posting on Friday, people are gonna expect the treatment 2 days after, so
Well,
Wednesday's the best I can do right now with the applicator.
all right. Then the other thing is, I know we talked about this at a couple meetings before, but we were supposed to be getting a by-council meeting memo from the administrator on ongoing projects, either through email or through whatever. And I haven't seen those, and they're very helpful, because I feel very uncomfortable when people ask me, what's going on with the area? And I say, I don't know. I have no idea, it's just not in yet. And what about this or what about that? So it'd be nice to be between our monthly meetings, because I think the council all agreed that that was a very helpful thing to have, and I haven't seen it yet. And the other thing is, I think we really missed a chance to do something nice for our residents by not making an effort to do some cleanup after the storm. I mentioned, I called the village and asked about it, but, you know, I wasn't looking to pick up logs, but the branches that people had cut off these big logs, either to get them off the road or out of their backyard for the holidays, were parked up there. And then obviously we know that for the garbage people to pick them up, everything has to be bundled into such a small size, and there was such an inordinate amount that I think the village could have very easily spent a few $1,000s to have some commercial chipper to come in and just make a pass down the street, and what he get, and what he didn't get, he didn't get. And I think that was a real missed opportunity for the village to do something out of the ordinary and a little bit extra for our residents.
You know what, actually, planning ahead for something like that before the next thing comes up is, I think, might be a good idea.
Because we've done it in the past. We've done it.
We did it one time when it was considered a national or a state of emergency.
Yeah.
But, you know, we had just enough people to clean up what was the village's responsibility.
No, I'm not necessarily saying that the DPW do, because the DPW couldn't do it. They couldn't go all the way around the village. But I'm sure there are people that have that type of equipment that, you know, when something happens like that, because it wasn't widespread, it was mostly in our area. And, it, you know, but at least to try to make some type of an attempt, because I still see a lot of them are still on people's lawns. That's it.
Brings us to me. First of all, just want to mirror some of the other comments about the storm and the cleanup, and I stayed home from work that day, did a lot of walking around the neighborhood, saw a lot of people helping each other out. There's still some cleanup that needs to happen out there, but I was really impressed with the way that everybody chipped in and tried to help. And thank you to Commerce Fire Department, everybody else who got the roads cleared so quickly. I was really surprised at how quickly we were up and moving around at least. Same thing as everybody for Tiki Night, and everybody I talked to thought, you know, we hear this a lot, and actually the comment this time was like, you know, we always say this was like the best year ever, but those were really great fireworks. I mean, they
The ones that went in the water.
the timing was great, the variety was great, it was really even more than the usual number of comments I got about it. I do want to mention, and I just couldn't remember if I mentioned it in our previous meeting or not, but I do want to say farewell to Roger Bush, who he and his wife Tanya are moving out of the community to join their kids in Colorado. So all of their kids have wandered off to Colorado, so they're going to wander off after them. Roger's been a great, you know, he's been a great advocate for the village. He's been a great resident. He chaired and steered the United Neighborhoods effort that really got pathways up and underway in the community. So just wanted to recognize his departure with regret. As residents leave, new residents arrive, and the moving truck arrived today, and so I'd like to say hello to Wolverine Lake's newest residents, my mother and father-in-law, Arson and Bridget Darnay. So if they are watching there at home, I saw the AT&T guy hooking up the internet as I drove in, so hello to them, and welcome to the village. And last item I did want to mention is, I know a lot of you know I've had some struggles with my work and the schedule and everything going on, and have had to do some real thinking about whether or not I could commit to another 4 years and, you know, be here at the meetings, because I take that really seriously. But I think I've got that situation squared away now, so and I think there's a lot more we can do. We've put a lot of work into getting the village into the shape it is. When I think back of, you know, where we were when I joined the council and where we are now, you know, I think we're in a great position to keep advancing the community, to keep doing a lot of things for our residents. And so I would like to stand for another 4 years. So the petition is officially out. And I'll have to collect up some signatures.
For senator, but you decided not to do that. Huh?
This is plenty. Plus, you know, I don't know that I could do without the $5 a month.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I really, you know, I'm really proud of everything we've done, both on this council and the previous councils on which I've served, and I think we've made a lot of great progress and advancement for the village, so if the residents will have me back, I look forward to being back. And with that, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss contract negotiations. Actually, no, we already had that as part of the, well, we had the,
Consent agenda.
we had the, we had the closed session, but yeah, I still need a motion to go into the closed session.
So moved.
Motion Nedros, second Cumbo. Further discussion? Let's roll call vote just to be safe.
Nedrow?
Yes.
Sinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Maggie?
Yep.
Kazaki?
Yes.
Kumbo?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
All right, we are going into closed session. We will be back. We'll see.
We'll leave it.